She parked her Lexus right next to my cornfield like it was a mall lot. Stilettos, designer sunglasses, and an attitude big enough to scare a horse. Karen had never stepped foot on a farm before, but today, she marched straight through my gate like she owned the place. "I'm here for the pumpkins," she snapped. "You should have had better signage." I blinked. "Ma'am, this is private property. This isn't a pumpkin patch." But she didn't care. She shoved past me, heels sinking into the dirt, and started walking toward the red barn where I store hay and equipment. Behind her, two little boys, no more than 6 or 7, ran screaming across the field, trampling young crops. I raised my voice. "Ma'am, there are bulls out there. You can't just wander." She waved me off. "If you don't want visitors, don't make it look so rustic on Google Maps." I didn't even know what that meant. What she also didn't know was that my prized bull, Copper, had just been let out to roam before sunset. And Copper? He doesn't like strangers, especially loud, stomping, perfume-soaked ones. I sprinted to my four-wheeler. She was about 200 yards in when I saw Copper. He spotted movement and raised his head, tail flicking, muscles tense. And then he charged. Not a full attack, just his usual "you're not welcome" sprint. But to Karen, it must have felt like a freight train of death. She screamed, loud enough to startle the crows from the tree line. One stiletto snapped clean off as she bolted in the opposite direction, one kid dragging behind her, the other stuck in a divot and crying. I swerved the four-wheeler in front of Copper and whistled. He skidded to a halt, huffed once, then slowly backed off. I leapt off, scooped up the crying kid, and handed him to Karen, who was now barefoot, muddy, and shaking like a leaf. "You could have killed us," she shrieked, grabbing her phone. "You trespassed," I said calmly. "I told you it wasn't public. I have cameras. You ignored the private property signs. I'll call the cops." I shrugged. "Go ahead. They're gonna love hearing about how you ignored 3 signs, passed 2 locked gates, and endangered your kids near livestock." She hesitated, then turned and limped back to her car. But this wasn't over. Not yet. I thought she'd slink away quietly, maybe feel the sting of embarrassment and move on. But no. The next morning, a sheriff's deputy rolled down my dirt driveway. "Morning, Sam," he said. "Got a report from a woman named Karen Browning. Said you endangered her kids with aggressive livestock." I laughed. "Oh, that woman? Yeah, I've got the whole thing on camera. You want coffee while I queue it up?" He chuckled. Wouldn't say no. I showed him the footage. Karen blowing past 2 private property signs, her kids tearing through my crops, and finally her charging directly toward my barn while Copper came out to defend his territory. The deputy shook his head. People think farmland is like a petting zoo until a real animal reminds them otherwise. He filed a report, not against me, but to document her trespassing in case she tried anything else. I figured that was the end of it. I was wrong. 2 days later, I got a letter in the mail. A formal complaint, not from Karen this time, but from the local HOA. Apparently, Karen was the president of a fancy suburban HOA 5 miles down the road, and she was trying to claim my farm was causing visual pollution and attracting unwanted wildlife. It would have been hilarious if it wasn't so annoying. I wrote back a polite, well-worded letter with legal references, letting them know: 1. I'm zoned agricultural. 2. I've owned this land since before most of their homes existed. 3. Any further contact would be met with a cease and desist. A week later, Karen showed up again, this time in flats, and this time with a clipboard. "You're really not going to cooperate with the HOA?" she asked. I stared at her. "You mean the HOA that has 0 authority out here? Lady, I don't live in your subdivision. I farm. I sell produce. I raise animals. That's what I do." She snapped a photo of my barn. This isn't over, but she made a fatal mistake. She posted that photo, along with my address, on the HOA Facebook group, implying I was running some kind of illegal operation that endangered children. Big mistake. One of her neighbors, a dad with 2 sons, recognized the photo instantly. He'd visited my farm just last fall, bought corn and tomatoes for my stand. He jumped in the comments with, "Karen, this is Farmer Sam. He donated food to the local shelter last winter. My boys love his place." Maybe you should stop trespassing on other people's land. The post blew up. The comments were brutal. Her own HOA members turned on her, especially when they saw the video of her trespassing and screaming at a literal bull. By the end of the day, not only had Karen deleted the post, she resigned from the HOA presidency for personal reasons. Now, I've got more business than ever. Families from all over drive out to see Copper from a safe distance, buy produce, and snap selfies at the Karen was here sign I set up near the gate. It's become a full-blown attraction. As for Karen, I haven't seen her since, but I'm keeping the cameras rolling just in case. Make sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss tomorrow's jaw-dropping episode. Trust me, they just keep getting crazier.